Make an Impact, episode 26. Get a jump on those 2021 resolutions now and get us out of 2020.
This is Make an Impact podcast. Do you want to make an impact in this world? Do you want to do more in your life and business? This is the Make an Impact podcast, hosted by Pete Spakowski. This podcast is where we teach the skills and share the stories to give you the leadership tools to make an impact in this world. Get ready to make an impact. Let's get started.
All right, well, hello everyone and welcome to Make an Impact. My name is Peter Spakowski and I am your host. Do you ever feel like you're stuck? That you feel like you just can't gain any ground or you don't even know where to start? Well, this podcast is here to help you go from stuck to unstoppable. Today, we're talking about goals. In fact, the next 3 or 4 weeks, we're talking about goals and how to properly define and stay on top of your goals. Goals are great to have, and it helps keep us focused on those things that we really want. But it's not just the goal that drives us. It's the feeling we get when we accomplish the goal that does. Now is the time to start planning your goals for next year, not in January. We will talk about that more later in this podcast. This week, I'm launching a new course on my website, maimpact.com, and it's absolutely free. It's how you properly plan your goals. This just in time for the next 3 podcasts. This course comes with a live webinar that takes place on December 15th of 2020. If you can't make the webinar, that's okay. It'll be recorded and it'll be stored on this online course so you can see it at any time. So even if you're listening to this podcast later and it's past December 15th of 2020, you can still get the product for free and the webinar will be there for you to watch. Well, this free product, you'll also get recordings on how to be successful planning your goals and accomplishing them. How to not give up and have the strength to push through and be more successful in your goals. It comes with templates to help you plan and review your goals. These are the exact same templates I've been using over the past 10 years. Strategies on how to get back on track with your goals when you get off track. And the free product also comes with an online discussion forum where you can discuss goals and with other members of the program. Again, this is a free product on how to properly go about your goals each and every time you set them. But I want to thank you for listening to this podcast today. If you've not already done so, go ahead and subscribe to this podcast because over the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about goal setting and you don't want to miss a single episode. Now, this is a free podcast. It's a podcast I don't ever plan to charge for, but one thing that would help keep this podcast free is to tell others about it. Whatever app you're using to listen to this podcast, there should be an option where you can send this podcast through a text message or an email. If you could forward this to 1 to 3 people, that would be great. And I would love it if you could do that. It's a small fee to ask and doesn't cost you anything, but I would be greatly appreciative if you could do that. I also want you, the listeners, to engage with me on this podcast. If you have a question for this podcast, you can email me at pete@maimpact.com or go to my website, maimpact.com. And at the very top of the screen, there is a form where you can submit questions or quotes for the podcast. If you have an area of your life where you just feel stuck, let me know how I can help you, and I'd be happy to answer that on an episode of this podcast. This week's quote comes from the great Jim Rohn. The quote is, "Goals. There's no telling what you can do when you get inspired by them. There's no telling what you can do when you believe in them. And there's no telling what will happen when you act upon them." How many of you go out and set goals because it's something you're inspired by? Many times we set goals, it's nothing more than an inspiration at that point. In fact, 70 to 90% of the goals we set are inspirational goals. I want to lose weight. I want to stop smoking. I want to have $1 million. I want a new job. If we really want to be successful in our goals, we not only want to be inspired by them, but we really need to believe in the goal that we're setting. We have to get in the mindset that we really can achieve the goal we want to achieve. Once we're inspired and we really believe in the goal we're setting, we then need to act upon them, good or bad, things we like to do, things we don't like to do. If you're hoping to lose weight by taking a magic pill or get $1 million by winning the lottery, those are called dreams. We need all three of these: inspiration, belief, and do the work to be successful at our goals. It's as simple as those three things. Okay, maybe it's not so simple, but we can work on mindset to help push us through those barriers that prevent us from our goals. If you enjoy quotes like this, I invite you to check out my other podcast called The Daily Impact. This is a 2 to 3 minute podcast where I highlight a quote and discuss what it means to me and how it motivates me. Okay, so on to the topic of our podcast. Over the next 3 or 4 podcasts, I'm going to be talking about goal setting and how to properly plan and achieve our goals. When I originally started goal setting, it was completely a thought in my head, and I kept it in my head. Some of the goals I would remember and some I would forget. Some I would forget, but then remember 3 or 4 months later, and by the time I was even farther behind on that goal. So I've been setting goals for myself for over 30 years. And when I first started, I was really good at 1 or 2 goals, but I would forget about the others and I just wouldn't spend the time. As a result of not having a real process for my goals, I found that most of my goals never happened. They were not good from the start, right? They were goals I really did not either believe in or I just didn't remember to put in the work. As a result, certain areas of my life struggled or I failed at, while others were successful and I was great at. But it was because I was not well-rounded in my goal setting. I left parts of my life in certain areas unattended. With goals, you need to be well-rounded. In life, you need to be well-rounded. You need to focus on all areas of your life sooner or later, or they'll force you to pay attention to them at some point. Health, for example, if you don't take care of your health, sooner or later, your body's going to force you to take care of it. You need to be well-rounded and you need to be focused on all areas of your life. You need to write down your goals so you can keep track of them and keep them in front of you and review them properly. You need to come up with a process to review and come up with a remediation plan if you get behind, if you fail at something. You will get behind and you will fail. That simply means you are trying to accomplish your goals. If you don't get behind and you don't fail at your goals, they're not big enough. People say shoot for the moon, but in reality, you should be shooting for Saturn, Jupiter, or even Pluto. Some may even say shoot beyond the Milky Way. This process I started using it back in 1990. It's gone through several reiterations and I continue to tweak it from time to time, but it's going to take 2 to 4 weeks to discuss this process on this podcast because otherwise this podcast would be a 2 to 3 hour podcast. It's great if it's an online course, like this is going to be part of an online course, but it's too long unless you're Joe Rogan. So this week we are talking about being a well-rounded individual. Think of your life as a wheel, and each area of your life is an area around the wheel. You need to make sure that each area gets attention. If your wheel is not fully inflated or has flat spots on it, it's not really a smooth ride, is it? Most likely, your life is not as smooth as it needs to be. There are 7 areas you need to establish goals. If you don't own a business or you're not trying to start a business, there are 6 areas of focus. For each of these areas, you need to establish no more than 2 or 3 goals for each category. That free online course I'm offering that I was talking about has templates available for this. They're in Excel, numbers, and PDF format, so anybody can download these and use them. I also have recordings, and the product will continue to grow around goal setting and will constantly evolve, just like I evolve my goal setting process all the time. There are 7 categories we should be setting for goals. I will list them here and discuss them, but I do have the first 3 in order that is most efficient and most important to me. These are the 3 areas I tend to focus on most. There is no way anyone can focus on all 7 at once. We need to set priorities on what ones we're going to focus on at any point in time. And that'll change. You need to make sure you change focus so you can keep that wheel inflated and have a smooth ride as much as possible. My first 3 stay relatively the same, while categories 4 through 7 rotate depending on what areas I feel like are either falling behind, being neglected, or I just need to improve on them at that point in time. And I only set 2 or 3 goals for each category. So here are my 7 categories. My first category, and it has been my first category for the past 10 years, that's physical. Physical is the most important category to set goals. Being physical allows you to be successful in the other areas. If you're not optimizing your physicality or your physical fitness, you can't pay as much attention or put in as much work in the other categories as possible. Physical is very important. And to many people, that means something different. To me, that means my overall health. How's my brain health? How's my gut health? How's my cardiovascular health? That's more important to me today than it was 20, 30 years ago, where I was more physique focused, right? I wanted to have a certain level of body fat. I wanted to have a certain size muscle. Those might be your goals too. Great. Everybody's different. I also have a very high goal of making sure my blood is healthy. If my blood is healthy, a lot of the other things just kind of fall in place. But bottom line is, I have physical goals and I set them every single year and I focus on them as my priority. Category number 2, family. It might be friends. It might be your immediate family. It might be spending time with certain people. It may, family may need help with homework. Your kids may need homework. It's important to spend one-on-one time with your kids. Setting a goal to have a once a month individual date with one of your kids is a great goal to have. But it's very family focused, and family is number 2. Put that higher on your list. It should be higher in anybody's list. I know far too many people that they put family down at 5 or 6 in categories, and it just doesn't work. You need to have well-rounded goals, and family is an important one. Number 3, and this completes my top 3 that stay consistently my top 3. And number 1, 2, and 3 stay relatively the same. They don't move around within that category. Number 3 is financial. It might be, what is your annual salary? It might be, how much money are you making in your business? It might be planning for retirement and how much money do you want to have when you go to retire, or how much money do you need to have when you're retired? It's important to set that higher so you can focus on that, so you can have the life later that you dream about today. So it's important to set those goals. Goals might be reducing the amount of debt that you have. Take a snapshot of the debt that you have and figure out how much you want to pay off that year, that in 1 year, you want your debt reduced by 20%. That's one of the things that you can do financially. Or you could maybe want a job where you're making $20,000 more a year, or you want to make 20% more in your business. So that's number 3, financial. Number 4 is business. So again, the business category is if you have your own business or you're trying to start a business, this is where that category comes in. What are 2 or 3 things that you need to do to either grow your business or start your business? Spending time, right? If you're trying to start a business, contributing 15 hours minimum a week for your business for startup, or deploying 2 or 3 products annually to generate revenue. There's different goals that you can set depending on the type of business. If you have something established or if you're trying to start your own business to start your own career. So that's number 4. Number 4 is business. And it's an optional one, whether you're trying to start a business or improve the business that you own. And again, just 2 or 3 categories. And this is individual goals for your business. If you have a business, you should have a whole set of goals for your business. Number 5, career. What are you doing to improve your career? A goal might be, I want to stay relevant in my field of business. By that, I'm going to listen to podcasts. I'm going to go to seminars. I'm going to continue to learn and educate myself. You're going to develop certain processes within your career. There's a lot of different things that you can do within your career. Maybe updating your resume if you're trying to find a new career. Updating your cover letter. Meeting with a career coach to figure out what are the next steps for your career. Whether you're trying to get promoted or you're just trying to make more of an impact in the career that you have today. That's another thing that's very important and focus on is your career. Number 6, social aspect. It's important to stay social. We stay healthier when we're social. Maybe your work or your business has social events. Maybe go to 2 to 3 social events a year around your career, around your business. Maybe it's going and spending times with friends or having friends over to your house. Maybe you're going to have a summer picnic every year for your friends to come and visit. Maybe you're going to have Thanksgiving this year at our house, or Christmas, or another holiday. Those are different social events that you can plan and be active in your social life. It does not mean I will spend 1 hour on Facebook or Instagram a day. I'm not talking about social media. I'm talking about real life social interactions with people. You will call somebody so often, right? Maybe once a month you call somebody that you haven't talked to in a year or 2 years. So those are different social goals that are good to have. Number 7 is spiritual. Spiritual for me is kind of always at this point in my goal setting and my goal focus, because spiritual is one area that kind of flows for me. I've always been raised that way, and it's always an area that just kind of flows and I stay involved with. So, but there are some things that I like to do that increase my spiritual goals. One of the things that I like to do to improve my spiritual goals is to volunteer my time with Night to Shine. Night to Shine is a great organization, and it just really impacts me. And I love giving back to this community where I go and volunteer my time doing photography so people have these memories to last a lifetime. So that's one thing that's in spiritual. But again, I do it every year and it just flows, that category. So I need to set goals, and I need to set goals that push me. But for me, it kind of relatively flows. I don't lose track of it. I don't lose sight of it. That's why it's number 7 for me. Some people might have that as their number 1. Some people might have that as their number 2. So again, these categories can fluctuate in where they are in your importance. These are just where they're at in my importance for right now. So again, let's review those top 7 categories that you need to have goals for each and every year. Number 1, physical. Number 2, family. Number 3, financial. Number 4, business. Number 5, career. Number 6, social. And number 7, spiritual. And just to highlight once more, number 4, business. That's if you are trying to start a business or if you currently have a business and their individual goals for you around business. If that doesn't pertain to you, you don't need to set categories in those. With setting 2 to 3 goals for each of these categories, I've been able to be around 90% successful with the goals I set each and every year. I set my annual goals starting the first week in November. This gives me enough time to push up my goals of the current year, so I'm trying to get them accomplished, or move any goal from the previous year that are incomplete into next year's goals if needed. It also gives me a good 5 to 6 weeks to really think about what goals are the most important for me. But with laying out my goals in these 7 categories and restricting them to 2 or 3 goals, I become more successful in my goals, but I also keep my wheel of life fully inflated in every category, or maybe not even fully inflated, but it keeps all areas equal, which gives stability in my life. It allows me to stop the forest fires. It's to stop the daily and weekly fires when it comes to the different areas of my life. It's not perfect and I do get behind, but it also makes sure I don't leave any area of my life unattended. And it also forces me to push hard for my goals. So next week, we're talking about how to properly define your goals. What makes a good goal and what doesn't? What should we absolutely have as a goal each and every time? And what things we never have as a goal. Again, if you want to learn about goal setting in more detail, head over to maimpact.com and sign up for my free course on goal setting. It's free, and what can you lose? You get some great content and you get free templates to help you accomplish more in your life. Thank you again for joining me here today. I also want to remind you to submit a question or a quote for the show. I would love to answer them here for you. Until next time, go out and make an impact.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Make an Impact Podcast with Peter Spakowski. There is only one thing that is left for you to do, and that's head over now to maimpact.com and get involved. We've loved having you here and look forward to connecting further. Until next time.